Hi, welcome to our latest podcast. I'm Francesca and I head up the payroll department at SeavorChartered. Today I have Graham, our director and client manager, and Lisa, who heads up the management account team. Today we're going to discuss Making Tax Digital, what it is and what people are required to submit and how we can support our clients. Firstly, Lisa, would you like to just give us a bit of a breakdown on what Making Tax Digital is?
Making Tax Digital is HMRC's long-term plan to update the UK tax system. It's moving away from paper records and annual submissions, and it's more regular submissions and using software for records.
Thanks for that, Lisa. I know Making Tax Digital has been going on for quite a while and there's been quite a journey. Would you like to be able to give us just a brief go through of that journey?
Yeah, so it's first introduced in April 2019 for VAT registered businesses. And then going on from there, they've now moved on to introduce for income tax. Yeah.
I suppose it's been going on quite a while, really, when you think they started the process in 2019 and they'll have had consultations even prior to that, how it was going to work. And I think now we're talking about it because it starts from this coming April for income tax, and it's been delayed so many times, but this time it is actually happening. So, the people it affects need to prepare themselves for it. But it has been going on, as we say there, six years since it was initially introduced, and now it's just getting rolled out to some more type of clients or taxpayers.
Yeah, so I know you've just mentioned there about it being rolled out to further people. Would you be able to just go through who Making Tax Digital does actually affect and who it doesn't affect?
I suppose what's getting introduced from April is it's going to affect sole traders and landlords. It's not going to yet impact partnerships or partners. That HMRC have said that will come further down the line, but they haven't given us a date on that yet. And it doesn't affect limited companies or limited liability partnerships. So it is really, when we're talking about it today, I suppose it's sole traders, landlords. It's you guys it's going to affect. And today, I suppose, listening to what we've got to say, hopefully it can help you get prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing to think of is if people are in partnerships, but they have a landlord or they are a landlord, they will have to do it, but only for the landlord income.
Yeah.
And it's keeping that separate,
right.
isn't it?
Yeah. So if they've got a landlord, you don't need to do anything. But if they're a landlord themselves, they have rental income.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. They're going to have to be reporting that rental income each quarter. Now, I'm adding a caveat to that. We'll get into the key dates, the key figures later, because you only have to report it if your income's over a set threshold, which we'll get to in due course. So, potentially if you've got one residential property that you let out and you're employed or you're a partner in a partnership, potentially you're not going to have to do anything yet for Making Tax Digital. But it does depend on the level of rental income that you're receiving.
Yeah, which we'll get into further along the line, won't we? Yeah. So obviously, I know you said they're going to be quarterly submissions, but it's important to note, isn't it, that payments are not due every quarter for the Making Tax Digital for income tax. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It'll still be the same as it is at the moment. 31st of January will still be that tax deadline for payment, or July if you've got payments on account as well. Yeah,
just like Lisa said, so January and July, no changes there. But let's be honest, I suppose, why are they introducing this? Yes, it's to modernise the tax system, but it wouldn't surprise me if further down the line, those two tax payments each year turn into 4. That would seem reasonable, wouldn't it? If you can have quarterly submissions to then make 4 payments, or even more often. Ultimately, if you're an employee, you pay your tax every month. Yeah. If you're a landlord or you're a sole trader, you're only paying that twice and you're paying it in arrears. So, if HMRC can get money in more often or earlier, ultimately it's making their bank balance look better.
Yeah, certainly. I know, Graham, you've mentioned about some thresholds and some key dates. Would you be able to maybe give us a bit of a go through with them key dates and the thresholds that are applying?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose the key date is the 6th of April 26. So this April, that is when sole traders and landlords are now required to make submissions through MTD. That is if your turnover or so that's your income if you're a sole trader, your sales. And if you're a landlord, that's your rental income. So we're not talking about costs here. If that exceeds 50,000, you're going to be introduced into MTD from April. From the following April, that threshold gets reduced to 30,000. And I suppose the plan, my understanding of what HMRC is, they're going to want absolutely everybody in this MTD system, but they're phasing it in. So firstly, it's applied to those over a £50,000 income. Then it'll apply to those of the next following year over a 30. And the chances are, although they haven't announced it, that'll probably get reduced further over time. So yeah, key date, 6th of April, and also next year for a lower threshold.
For 27.
The key point as well is, like you did mention, it's not profit. I think that is really, really key.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do think it is based on profit, but it is your turnover before any expenses.
Yeah, so you
really
could find that you're not making a profit, but you're still going to have to report under this new making tax digital system because your income exceeds them thresholds of 50 and in a year's time 30.
Yeah. So for anyone who does have their income over 50,000 as of the 6th of April 26, they'll obviously be looking at doing these quarterly submissions. And what are the dates for what the quarters cover, for what the submission is due by?
Yeah, so I suppose if it starts the 5th of April, that first quarter is going to be till the end of June. And then they're going to have a month and 7 days to then make their first submission. So their first submission will be due by the 7th of August.
Yep.
And then it's going to be every quarter then after that. And then dates, it'll be the same dates every year.
Yeah.
And it will be for everybody. So, just something to make sure you're prepared for, really. And, and we'll get into what sort of things that you need to be thinking about. But it is absolutely happening. Don't be having sleepless nights, but you do need to get prepared because the last thing you want to do is get through to the 7th of August and not have a plan of what you need to be doing.
Yeah, not have anything set up or preparations, So obviously these quarterly submissions, first one being due by the 7th of August, for people who are VAT registered and have to do the Make Tax Digital for income tax submissions, it's my understanding that they'll have to do 8 submissions a year, 4 for the VAT side of it and 4 for the income tax. Is that correct?
I'm going to say yes, it is, but they'll actually even have a final one to make as well, won't
Yeah,
they?
so there'll be
9.
So you can almost argue the 9. I suppose it makes sense, doesn't it, if VAT quarters don't already align with these making tax digital quarters to probably change your VAT period end. So it'll only feel like there's one thing happening, but at the end of that, you're going to have 2 submissions, one for your VAT to send it here and one for your income tax to send it somewhere else, and then have that final submission as well.
Yes, I suppose in that terms, if people haven't got their VAT quarters in line, now is probably the time to be considering it, making that change, again, to be prepared.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, isn't it? It's going to reduce the admin on people and just make their lives easier going forward.
Yeah, because then I suppose at that point you're only gathering the information 4 times a year rather than potentially 8 and it covering different periods.
Yeah, like I suppose in a perfect world, which we'll get into, you're keeping on top of your financial paperwork and things regularly, whether it's weekly or monthly or daily, depending on the type of business you're in. But you're right, if you're somebody historically that's just been used to doing it once a year, taking a shoebox or a carry bag to your accountant, that's not going to be sufficient anymore. You're at least going to be doing that 4 times. Yeah. And even then, that's probably not recommended.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously we've talked a lot about being prepared and what client needs to do. Graham, would you be able to almost go through what you think clients would be required to do with this introduction from April 26? Yeah,
so I suppose a key thing is HMRC, you're not going to be able to submit these quarterly submissions through a facility provided by HMRC. So straight away, you're going to need third-party software. There might be some free solutions out there, but the majority are going to have a cost. So you need to find what software you're going to use to maintain your records or what software you're going to use to make submissions. So that's a key thing that you need to think of. Once you've determined that, you've got to actually think of how you're going to maintain your records. If you are the person who just took it once a year, is that something you're going to do each quarter? Are you going to do it more regularly than that? Is it something you're going to expect your accountant to do? And then almost determining what the costs of that are in terms of software, and if you want somebody else to do or help you with that, what their sort of costs are going to be.
So in terms of obviously softwares to use, do you want to maybe go through a handful of softwares and how to use them in the best way that the clients can use them, whether that be providing us information or their accountants information, or they upkeep that themselves?
So I suppose there's loads of different software solutions, isn't it? Like what's your favourite, Lisa? Like,
Seavor.
What would you recommend? Yeah, so,
Seavor.
And I'm going to say Seavor would be my favourite as well. But you've got to think of one, what's the cost, but also ease of use. So some people could suggest, this software's free or it's £20 per year. Yes, but if it takes you 50 hours extra to update it, maybe paying £10 a month would be the right decision to make or whatever. I think in terms of Xero as well, I think QuickBooks is a big one that we'll end up recommending, and also a free agent as well. And I say there's loads outside of that, but I think they're going to be the three main softwares that we would recommend: Xero, QuickBooks, and free agent. And
certainly, I would say in our office in particular, they are the three softwares that we would mainly use. So when it comes to us providing support, while we can support on many softwares, them three are up there with being able to provide that support.
Yeah, that's after reviewing all the softwares as well. You know, we do look at them and we find the ease of use for us and also for clients alike. We've found.
And value for money.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
You want to, whatever you get, it's got to be value for money for what you provide, isn't it?
Yes.
So other softwares, they're either expensive but not got the facilities or features they've got, or they're cheap, but then you have to spend more time because they don't have the facility or features that they've got. So them three seem to be, every time we do a regular check, they still seem to be the three market leaders that we recommend.
Yeah, and certainly obviously between us, we do have a lot of experience in the industry. So we have had a lot of time to look at all these softwares and consider what we would recommend.
Yeah.
So obviously we've talked about the softwares and what a client needs to do. Lisa, would you be able to just give us a bit of what the impact is on the clients on this introduction, in terms of positives, but as well there will be some challenges that a client faces?
Yeah, so as Graham said, obviously there is the cost. There will be an extra cost for people, but we can work with them to minimise that where possible. There'll also be the extra admin, so there will just be extra admin that comes along with it as well.
Even if it's just a journey dropping off the records to your accountant, that is still
time
extra
and admin.
Collating the stuff.
Yeah.
When we go back to the costs there, I know HMRC, this is absolutely off the top of my head, I think they suggested it was going to cost businesses an extra between £250 and £350.
Yeah.
Because of making tax digital. So HMRC have actually recognised there is an extra cost to businesses, to sole traders, landlords, from them introducing this. But I think when they've given that cost, they have literally just thought of software. I don't necessarily think they've thought of the extra time or admin costs. Like in a perfect world, HMRC probably thinks everybody just keeps on top of the records every week. And that isn't the case in the real world, is it? And a lot of people have, whether it's bookkeepers or accountants doing that for them, and there's going to be a cost to that. We were checking it, weren't we? And the FSB, so the Federation for Small Businesses, and also the CIOT, which is the Chartered Institute of Taxation. You know, they were looking at costs, and I think I've seen figures varying from an extra £43 a year. Don't know how you're going to achieve that, up to 5,000, which I think, well, that's way off the scale sort of thing. Yeah. But I think it just shows, depending on the type of business you've got and how involved you're going to be and how involved you want your accountant or bookkeeper to be, there could be a real difference in range of the cost. And it's almost, maybe you've never had a bookkeeping service before, but if you're going to be making quarterly submissions through software, you're almost really going to need a bookkeeping service or solution. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a big change, isn't it, for businesses?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose as well, that's if you want somebody else to do it for you, but it's something that we've discussed as well of a firm, is sort of providing training to people so they can keep their own software training as well. So hopefully there might be an initial cost for that, but then it'll be minimal for
And I suppose leading up to it, you know, depending on what software solutions people offer, we might even offer people, you know, a few clients to come in at one time, see how the software works, ask any questions they've got and that sort of thing. And then we'll offer continuing support. But a lot of the softwares now, they're not even made necessarily for accountants. You know, they're making them for business owners, sole traders. So they're making them as easy as they can to use. But with that little bit of training, it can make so much of a difference in terms of how good the data is in there. Because when you're making these submissions, ultimately they're going to HMRC, so you want them to be of a good standard.
Absolutely.
You know, if you send them a load of rubbish, it could just raise red flags.
Yeah, especially obviously if things are fluctuating quarter on quarter because of how you're using that software. You just need to be careful on things like that, don't you? You need to make sure that what you're sending is most accurate at that time. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's it. We want them to be as accurate as possible. Now, they're not the final submission like we discussed earlier. That still will be due by 31st of January. And you will be able to make any changes if they're not being accurate, but you do want them to be as accurate as possible. You don't want as much variance between the submissions that you're making.
I suppose all I'd add to that is, you know, you make your submission each quarter, And HMRC absolutely accept adding those 4 quarters together to the final submission. There could be differences, whether it's estimates for use of home or maybe mileage claim going in or prepayments, accruals, whatever that could be. But, you know, the practical point of view would be, let's say you've got 4 quarters and then there's a big variance to that final submission. For example, all of a sudden your purchases reduces by £25,000. You know, I think we'd be naive to think that isn't going to get highlighted on HMRC's system, and then going to say, I wonder why all of a sudden the purchases would reduce by 25,000 compared to the quarterly submissions. So it is something that we have to bear in mind. And my view is we want to get them as close each quarter so that when it gets to the year, yes, I expect there will always be variances, but that they're not significant enough to raise a red flag and create unnecessary inquiries from HMRC.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's the other side, isn't it?
Yeah, by having that software, the bookkeeping
keeps it more in time and accurate for the time of the period. I know we've talked a lot on there about an impact on terms of costs and time, but there certainly is some positives to bringing in the making tax digital. Lisa, do you want to run through some of the positives for our clients? And
so absolutely. So following on again from keeping the software, what that gives a business owner is a more real-time picture of their business. So rather than wait until 12 months down the line, or till you've got your 12 months, 9 months down the line to when you're preparing those accounts, and seeing your profit and making decisions at that point, hopefully you'll be able to make decisions quicker on the information that you've got.
And based on better information as well. So that means your decisions should be better as well on average, shouldn't it? So I think that's a positive thing. It is going to be a big change in habit for a lot of people. That might be hard to start with, but ultimately if you took a step back and said, what's the best way to run your financial affairs? It's by understanding where you're at and being able to see a regular view on where you're at. And making tax digital is going to force people's hands to have that information, in all honesty. And that can't be a negative, it can only be a positive, but it comes at a cost in terms of time and admin.
Yeah. I mean, I know certainly from my point of view, when people are still having to make payments in January 31st, but the whole point of making tax digital is that everyone is reporting more in time, that would allow clients to have have an earlier perception of and a plan of tax payments. So because you're having to bring it in because of these making tax digital rules, well, as accountants, we'll have that information earlier. There won't be a rush. You'll be able to have that talk with that client.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, it's somebody, let's say you're a sole trader, and you literally take your records to your accountant at the end of the year to do it, which there is still a lot of businesses or sole traders that work that way, and landlords. They realistically might not have any idea what the tax liability is going to be until it's calculated. And at that point, there's no tax planning that can be done. The tax is what it is. If you get that done early, great. At least you've still got some time to plan to pay that.
But you can't minimise or you can't.
Whereas once that's on that software, your accountant is going to be able to work with your pre-year ends and give you a better idea and see if there's any opportunities to be helping you save tax, if that's the right thing to do. Yeah,
and certainly, obviously, it allows the time to plan to, if you do have that big bill, to then save and then also look at changes that need to be made more on time.
Yeah,
would you agree? Yeah,
I would. Yeah.
So obviously, I know we've talked quite a lot about on the impacts and what clients need to do. Graham, would you be able to run down how us as our firm are going to be able to help our clients when it comes to making tax digital?
Yeah. So I suppose if they're not already using the software, we're going to be able to potentially look at the 3 recommendations we've given there or alternatives and recommend what we would suggest that they use and potentially what processes and systems we think would make things efficient for them. If they decide to go with that advice, we can then give them training, like Lisa mentioned, to get them ready to do the software and see what's efficient, not just in terms of time, but also in terms of cost. If, for example, they want a real hands-off approach to this all, literally we can offer a full service to help them.
Yeah.
And I think what we'll do there is we'll recommend what we think's right for them based on our understanding of their ability technically with computers and things like that. And whether we think how big a job we think it is and all this sort of stuff, because there's so many good solutions out there, from taking, pictures of receipts with your mobile phone and to make things nice and efficient. And it's just what, us understanding our clients and know how they like to do things, we can hopefully make sure that whatever solution it works for them. And we'll absolutely be making sure they're prepared so that from the 6th of April, all our clients will absolutely know what's recommended for them. And I still think we have, if there's any client now that was having a, sleepless nights over this, I don't think we need to. I think actually there's still plenty of time to get prepared in how you're going to do things. And if you've been doing something in I'm going to say an old fashioned way, as in bringing a bag of records at the end of the year or whatever, whether you started this new process 6 months ago, you start it now, it still needs done.
Yeah.
So you're in no better or worse position as long as you have a plan, and we're going to help all our clients at the least get a plan.
Yeah.
And I know certainly we definitely understand that every client is on an individual basis.
Yeah.
No one can be grouped together, and that every client is an individual and they deal with things on their own way, and we have that understanding with them and we're going to deal with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's that traditional sense, like, some people think people are sat at a laptop all day. The reality is the majority of business people that this would affect, sole traders, lands, they're not at a laptop all day. So some software's maybe better on a laptop, some's better on a mobile phone app. So what's right for the client depends on how they work and what they're doing.
Yeah, and certainly we'll all be taking that time to have that discussion
absolutely.
with everyone on an individual basis to work out what's best for them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for your input today. It certainly is very vital and very informative for any businesses who are listening and that are falling into this category of Making Tax Digital. Just a brief summary of what we've discussed is that Making Tax Digital is happening. There's no more delays.
Yeah.
And the biggest risk that anyone could make is not doing anything until April or even until August when that submission is due.
Yeah.
But it's also important that no one should be having, as you say, sleepless nights, and that we are here to help everyone. And whether we have that conversation with you now or we have it in 2 weeks, that we are there to have that discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose if you don't do it, what's going to happen? It's it's HMRC penalties, interest, coming under undue scrutiny, or that you just isn't required. So we'll be here to help, and we'll make sure those things don't happen.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.